Good morning, Agile Australia. Good morning. Oh, slight problem. Hang on. No, just bear with me a sec. Yeah, hang on, it'll be right in a moment. No, it's not them. No, Okay, good morning, Agile Australia. This is the 7th version of this slide deck. So thank you for making it here today. So today we're going to be talking about the 7 habits of highly effective, lean, agile leaders. So some folks find the world of agile and leadership and management to be a little bit grey. I'm sure you've seen this before. It's been around for 20 years, had a birthday in February, and it's kind of short, a little bit silent on the role of leadership and management, except perhaps maybe this one. What do we need leaders and managers to do? Create the right environment, give people support, trust them to get the job done, leave the teams alone, in a nutshell. However, creating the right environment is actually the role of leadership. And we know from Ron Westrom's studies of organisational cultures that the leaders and leadership behaviours have a huge, huge impact on the environment. Change the leader, change the leadership behaviour, change the environment. So there's a correlation there. So where do we look? Where do we look when we're going to try and find some guidance on what these lean agile leaders should be doing? Well, it may surprise you, it may not, but we look to the world of the Toyota production system, or as you probably know it, Lean. You see, leadership is the foundation of Lean. When we look at Toyota, we look at the history of Toyota, we look at the success of Toyota, it is clear that leadership behaviour and the way they invest in their leaders is foundational to their success and therefore foundational to the success of Lean. And as it turns out, Lean is also the foundation of Agile. So I feel like it's one of those things that isn't always spoken about, but when you go back to the source and you go back to so many of the books and the thought leaders that underpin the Agile movement, you find them making references to Toyota, the Toyota production system, and Lean. So, for my money, Lean Agile leadership is kind of going to be key if we want to succeed with our Lean and Agile transformations. So this is an area that's fascinated me for a number of years now, and I have a bunch of theories based on real-world experience, but still they're just my theories based on my observations about what behaviours, what practices help Lean Agile leaders succeed. And I really wanted to validate or test this hypothesis. So a few years ago, back in a time long, long ago when we were allowed to get on airplanes and visit foreign countries, I signed myself and my business partner Adrian up for a Lean study tour in Japan. It was time to go to the Gemba, the source of Lean, and find out for myself what really goes on there. So I happened to follow a lovely lady by the name of Katie Anderson on Twitter. She had been living in Japan for a couple of years, and she had returned to the US, and she had this dream of setting up Lean study tours and connecting people with her Japan and all the people that she had met over the time she had lived in Japan. One of which is Mr. Yoshino, who is pictured there with her. And he was a 40-year veteran of Toyota, and those familiar with the Lean movement are probably familiar with John Shook, and he was John Shook's first manager at at Toyota. Anyway, Katie is lovely. Since I met them, so I knew them back when, just to put that out there. Since I met them, they wrote a book together, which is awesome. But back then, they were just Katie and Mr. Yoshino. And they took us all around Japan, and we met a bunch of folks from a bunch of different companies. So we went to Isuzu, where they create metal coils. We went to Mifune, which presses metal into shapes that then get given to car manufacturers like Toyota. We went to Toyota, of course. We went to a place called Agura Metal. So this is interesting. They press metal, so that kind of seems to be the theme here. Their COO is a woman. She is the daughter of the founder, granddaughter of the founder, something like that. And women in leadership is actually rarer in Japan than it is in most parts of the world. So it's a really big deal. And in Japan, you, by law, you have to take your husband's surname in the business world. So you must use your husband's surname in the business world. But she has the surname Agura because that's her family business. So her husband changes his name. So they stay the Aguras. Really, really interesting lady, really interesting company. Kikuchi make gears. Japan Post, you know what they do. Tessie, one of the folks behind the Shinkansen, the bullet trains. All right, so what did I learn? First up, as Rachel said yesterday, it's the simple things, it's the little things that make a difference. Lean, agile leaders say thank you. It's one of those things I've always had a really strong belief in. I actually wasn't even conscious I did it. And years and years ago, in my life before Agile and technology and all of that, I used to work in call centres. And I can remember changing jobs and getting some feedback from my new manager. And she said, oh, the team's really happy with you. And I'm like, okay, awesome, thank you. Great. What did I do? She said, you say thank you. I'm like, okay. Cool, thanks. Anyway, it's the little things that make a difference, and saying thank you is an awesome habit for Lean Agile leaders to have. So one of the ways that I've been practicing this for many years now is I work with primarily teams of teams. Some of you might be familiar with the idea of an agile release train or a tribe perhaps, so teams of teams. And one of the practices that we encourage is people standing up in front of that team of teams, 50, 100 people, and shouting out, saying thank you publicly to those who've helped them over the course of the last sprint or iteration. And we call it shout outs. And it gets followed by a thundering round of applause. So we could try this, folks. So how about a shout out to Rachel Slattery and the team at Agile Australia for actually making this conference happen? How do we do it, team? Is that fun? And we can just keep doing that, except that that's not what you came here for. Anyway, so for those who are shy, we have another solution, which is the kudo card and the kudo box. So a little thank you note dropped in a box and then often read out by the leaders to the entire organisation. So what do I find when I get to Japan? This one, I think I just lit up. This is one of many walls inside the Agura factory, which is full of notes of appreciation, and they keep all of them. So they're clipboards with just pages and pages and pages of appreciations from one member of the team to another, from leaders to other, and they keep all of them because it creates that visual representation and reminder of the thank yous that have been given. And I love Mrs. Agura's mission statement for her company. The company will bring smiles to all employees and customers. Isn't that fun? So the other one that I saw was the Angel Report, which comes from Tessie, the Shinkansen folks. And they created a system in 2007 where, again, it's peer-to-peer recognition. You report somebody doing a good thing. So you write a report about somebody doing a good thing, helping a consumer, being nice to somebody else, and then they publish this report to the entire company every month. In the year I was in Japan, 18,000 reports had been filed. Talk about creating some positive momentum inside the organisation. So habit 2, constantly and consistently invest in learning. So I have a really simple view on learning. Train everybody. If you want people to work in a different way, you want them to be agile, do Scrum, do SAFe, do XP, do Kanban, I don't care. If you want people to behave differently, then as a leader, you have a moral obligation to provide those people with the tools and the know-how to do that. They're not just going to be able to magically work it out themselves. They're going to need a little bit of help. So what did I find in Japan? This was really interesting. So we met with one of the execs at Toyota Memorial Hospital, and they're talking about introducing TPS into the hospital, Toyota Production System into the hospital environment. And you've got to get doctors and nurses to pay attention to Kaizen. And they're like, yeah, right, whatever. I have real patients over here, you know, people are sick, people need help. Really, your Kaizen stuff, very interesting, but nowhere near as important as my real life patients. So they made a very deliberate decision that they created a training program, and they took their doctors and their nurses through 2 days of training to explain to them the value of Kaizen. And that was a strong message, right? For 2 days, I need you here and I need you focused on this, and it is as important to patient care, because Kaizen is how we get quality and better patient care. So they created that connection for the doctors and the nurses to invest in getting better. Learning also needs to be accessible. I like book clubs. I like book clubs because they're easy. I worked for a manager once who said to me, books are cheap. You can buy as many books as you like for your team. Books are cheap. And if people read the books on their own time, that's cheap too. Like, excellent, that's a great strategy, thanks mate. Anyway, he let me buy a lot of books, which is great. And I used to, and I still do in fact, create time inside the organisations I used to run, the organisations that I work with now, for people to learn from books. So we do that by actually taking time during business hours to reflect on what we're learning, share ideas, think about how we're going to implement the ideas that we came up with from books. And I do love this Vern Harnish quote: "Those who can read and don't are only marginally better off than those who can't." It's really interesting. I feel like there's this hidden thing that happens. We leave university and we never pick up another business book again. Books are really powerful. I like books. So what did I see in Japan? This is Kikuchi Gears. The leader there, what I am most proud of is our people assets. That is the front entrance to their factory. You're going to have to trust me on this, that those Japanese characters really do say the names of people and their engineering qualifications. So when you get a new engineering qualification, there's a little ceremony, they give you some money, you get a cash bonus, and your name goes up in the front of the company. And they're encouraging them to upgrade their so there's different levels of engineering certifications. So front and center, front entrance of the company, here is the education of our engineers. And of course, learning isn't 2 days in a classroom. Learning isn't, I read a book and now I'm an expert. Learning becomes to life, it becomes habit through practice. So one of the things that I've always believed is you just do the, let me show you a new way. Now let's practice working in that new way, and that's how we embed the behaviour. So what we saw in Japan. So first, a Guru medal, it's every day, right? Learning isn't a special event, It's every day. This is what we do. This is the role of leadership, helping people learn, helping people grow. Isuzu, this was fascinating. 1 week training. An instructor is allocated to you for 6 months. You get feedback at the end of every shift for 6 months. And you keep a diary on how you are growing. Can you imagine getting feedback at the end of every shift for 6 months? I'm actually not sure if I'm excited or terrified. But wow, that's an investment, right? Week of training and then 6 months somebody is going to look after you while you learn on the job. And I just love this from Mr. Yoshino. What do we do at Toyota? We make people while we make cars. It's our people who make cars, not machines. Why do we invest in people? Because it's people who do all the work. So habit 3, relentless improvement. Or as I experienced in Japan, Kaizen. Oh my goodness, they are absolutely crazy about Kaizen. Everything is Kaizen, all the time Kaizen, to just an overwhelming level. So for me, yeah, Kaizen, I get it, continuous improvement, relentless improvement, love it. One of the things I like to do with the organisations I work with is we set up what we call a bubble up, and we ask the teams after their retrospectives every 2 weeks to share the problems, the opportunities that they have discovered for the organisation with leadership and each other. So we're raising up lots and lots of challenges. What are we seeing? What could be better? What would have made the last 2 weeks better if we could make it better? So just constantly bubbling up issues. Well, I tell you what, I'm not doing this anywhere near as much as apparently I should be. So the way this works, and I saw this over and over again, is they generate thousands of ideas. The mental model, and I have very clear memory of this, was from the leader at Toyota Memorial Hospital, talking about, I want all the ideas. And I want all the ideas because if I don't have all the ideas, one of those little ideas might be the next brilliant idea and I'm going to miss it. So ideas, let's collect ideas. And we saw it at Mifune. It was 1 idea per employee every month. Aguro Metal, 3,000 ideas a year. Where was it? I think it was Kikuchi Gears. Will pay you 500 yen for a good idea. I Googled this morning how much 500 yen is. $6.50 Australian. But it seemed like a lot, right? I mean, I made a little note when I was doing this tour. 500 yen. Okay, yeah, $6.50. Anyway, maybe the exchange rate was better back then. Many ideas. It actually reminds me a little bit of when I started with this bubble up process, and I was work with one of the guys I was working with at the time. He's collecting all the ideas, and we're looking through this, and I go, gee, there's a lot of rubbish in here. And he goes, yep. I said, well, why don't you tell them, right? Why don't you tell the teams that there's a lot of rubbish in here? And he says, I don't want them not to bring me stuff. So whatever they give me, I'm just going to say thank you. And yes, some of it I can't use, but whatever they bring me, I'm just going to say thank you, because that's how I get visibility. I don't want to discourage anyone for sharing ideas or coming up with ideas. Of course, the trick to making any of this work is follow through. This I learnt the hard way. What you are seeing here is a Kanban board from back when I worked in industry, and I ran my leadership team as an agile team. And as it turns out, leaders are really, really good at telling other people how to be agile. Not so good at actually doing the agile. So this is our board, whipplement of 1, it's awesome. And you might notice these little charts here. So the cumulative flow, which basically says we keep adding ideas, but we don't actually deliver anything. So that's nice, that's what the little post-it says. No flow, big backlog of ideas growing. And no control chart because, no flow. So follow through is really important. Visibility helps. Nothing quite like your team coming up to you and saying, so, leadership team, What's your velocity? When are you going to demo? Huh? Haven't seen your demo yet. Like, this is really awkward. Anyway, follow through is important. So no improvement is too big. And this was mind-boggling, particularly to Adrian. So my business partner, Adrian, is an aerospace engineer. So this made her head explode. So this is the Isuzu factory, and there were 2 lanes for trucks to come in and pick things up. And there's a pillar in between. And the pillar is pointed out to be a risk, right? Trucks could hit the pillar. It was a pretty tight space. It was a hazard. So they re-engineered the entire building. And I'm told by engineers, you don't just pull a supporting pillar out of a building. That is a massive, massive undertaking. But it was the right thing to do for the factory, for the health and safety of the people, for making it okay to do what they do. Interestingly enough, no improvement is too small either. The leader at Mifune was another real standout for me. And when he talks about improvement, I love this. 1 second is very important. Steps take seconds. 10 steps waits 5 seconds. If you walk, you use energy and your shoes wear. So he took us through his factory. They press metal into car parts, and they have to be able to swap the presses over really quickly because that dictates how much throughput they can get because they get an order, they press a bunch of metal, they have to change the dies around to press different types of metal, and how long that takes has a massive difference in their throughput. So they, over 5 years, got a changeover down from 25 minutes to 5 minutes by doing this. 1 step, 1 second, tweak, 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 tweak. 5 years, 25 minutes to 5 minutes. It's material for them, right? That went from, I don't remember the exact stat, but it was maybe a handful of different parts they could do in a day to the number being 14 or 15 different types of parts they could cut in a day because the changeover time was so much faster. Habit 4, connect with the Gemba daily. So the Gemba, Japanese word for the real place where the work is done. A daily connection with the Gemba. Maybe you have a scrum of scrums, or maybe you have an art sync in your world, a place where teams come together and share cross-team information. This was another learning I had back when I worked in industry. And when I first became a leader in the technology space, I inherited a 2-hour Monday morning program meeting. That was my gift from my predecessor. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm kind of new to this leading technology gig, and this is what we do, right? I run a 2-hour Monday morning program meeting, and I have all the people turn up with their PowerPoints, and they say stuff, and we go, but that PowerPoint's not right, and that should be green, and that should be red, and you haven't got the risk from last week in there. So it's really, it's fun. One of the gents I was working with said, I reckon you could just do a stand-up. I'm like, you're an idiot. It's okay, I called him an idiot all the time. It turns out he really wasn't, but he was fine with that. I'm like, here's the deal, dude. You run your standy-uppy thingy over there, and I'm going to run my 2-hour program management meeting because I am now a leader in technology, and that is what we do. So he said, okay, it's fine, but you have to come to my thingy. Whatever. So this is what we start to do. 15 minutes every day. Heartbeat of the organisation. What's hot? Who's having a problem? Who needs help? No more program management meetings. Every day, quick check-in. What's hot? Who needs help? Who's in trouble? Finger on the pulse. Heartbeat of the organisation. So we saw stand-ups and their equivalent everywhere we went. Japan Post, health and safety checks, any incidences, sales, health, roads that need repair. Every morning, what's the focus? How are we doing? This was interesting at Mifune. So it's a factory, manufacturing context. Every day, How are you doing? And they're looking for patterns, right? My arms hurt, my arms hurt, my arms hurt. Maybe you're not standing at the machine the right way. Maybe we need to change the work progress. Lack of sleep. Maybe we need to give you something less dangerous today. Maybe we need to be aware of what's going on with you. So every day, how am I doing? Am I okay? Anything we need to know? What can we do to take care of you? And they couldn't do the stand-ups in the hospital. And what they did is they put a screen that flashed up the minute you logged in the morning with the information that you needed to know. And particularly warnings for operations, right? New things that you needed to know, things that had evolved since you'd last been on site. Every day, connection between the leaders and the Gemba, the real place, the real people where the work is done. Habit 5, foster awesome working environments. I could spend all day on this. So Michael, how much time did you say I could have, like you weren't going to need? Lots. Michael will be following me up next. It's okay, Michael, I promise to let you talk. I could spend all day talking about fostering awesome working environments. This is very much my passion. The simple tool here, a little simple tool that actually helps. If you don't know where to start, if you don't know what to do, it's called the Employee Net Promoter System. It is part of the broader Net Promoter System, which you may have come across in your travels. I'm kind of geeky, so when I first encountered the Net Promoter System, I had to read the book behind it because that's just who I am. And in the book, it talks about the correlation between happy customers and happy employees. So you can't have happy customers without happy employees. So let's understand. And the way I like to do this, SurveyMonkey, Google form, something really, really simple. To everybody, the permanent staff, the contractors and the consultants. I know that you were told that they weren't real people and the HR folks said it was fine, just interview the permanent staff. But you know what, just, it's going to be okay. SurveyMonkey, it's not like it's a corporate system or anything, and ask everybody working in your ecosystem, would you recommend working here to a friend or colleague? And why did you say that? And it's quick and easy, and you can do it once every 3 months. And all you need to do is ask the question, listen to the answers, and you will start to improve your working environment. The act of asking the question is an indication to your organisation that you care about the answer. Just don't forget that follow-through part, otherwise it gets a little bit awkward. So, what did we see in Japan? This is so fun from Isuzu. Our goal for our company is that our employees work comfortably and we can operate at a profit just like Disneyland. I mean, I can't tell you, this factory, right? There is nothing Disneyland about this factory. This is people pressing metal and rolling it up into coils. And it smells like diesel, right? There's people with their hard hats, areas caged off for safety, walk between the lines, the whole thing. Disneyland. Very aspirational, I think. Japan Post. As the director, my responsibility to ensure a good working environment for all employees. So some of the ways that we might create that environment could be a little practice I like to call Unity Hour. And this is something that we like to do with the teams of teams we work with. We bring them together for 1 hour every 2 weeks to hang out, have fun, learn together. So we'll play agile learning games, we'll share information, we'll have talent shows, we'll play Pictionary where people share their, guess how well my last sprint went with Pictionary. That can be really fun. We can even do it online. So the last couple of years, of course, we have been bringing people together online and playing games online. The last one we did was Pick the Desk. So you have everyone take a photo of their desk and upload it into a shared space. It takes a really long time. It's not the uploading of the photo, it's the cleaning of the desk before they upload the photo. Anyway, it creates a lot of fun. Create a way to create connection between the people who work together, foster that environment. The Tessie folks, very, very fun. The Shinkansen people, they have these are the cleaners. So the Shinkansen, I don't know if anyone's familiar with the 7-minute miracle. If you're not, Google it. This is something else. So the 7-minute miracle is the change over time when the train hits the end of the line. In 7 minutes, they clean that train top to bottom, and then they board the new people, and away they go. It is something to actually go and see. So this is a really big deal, being a cleaner on one of these Shinkansen. And they of course do themes. They dress up for Christmas, they dress up for that Hawaiian theme. They have some fun with it, and they're really proud of what they do. And Mrs. Agura, again, possibly my favourite. If people work in a joyous environment, they are more motivated to make improvements that ultimately benefit the customer. Full circle back to what the folks behind MPS have been telling us. All right, habit 6, contribute to the community. So, think beyond yourselves a little bit. One of the things I've seen a lot of organisations have a lot of success with is fundraising. There's some folks in here raising money for Movember. You can tell they're agile because we had to dot vote for the best Mo. Really lovely group of guys. You have the winner of Best Mo and you have Miss Movember there. You can probably work out which one he is. Poor Dave. We have raising money for Shave for a Cure. So Luke here bet us that we couldn't raise $1,000, but if we did, we could wax his legs in the office. So apparently he didn't learn the first time, and he said, I bet you can't raise $1,000 for Movember. If you do, I'll eat a raw onion. Poor Luke, just doesn't learn. Anyway, potluck lunches, whatever makes sense, right? Go do things, give back to the community. Maybe it's fundraising, maybe it's participating in some other way. Japan Post, wow, just blown away. They are so integral to the community. So if they turn up at somebody's house and the mail hasn't been collected in a really long time, they report that because there's probably something wrong. Is that person okay? Are they sick? Are they ill? Do they need help? If they see potholes in the road, they report those because they're dangerous and people are going to get hurt. If there are evacuations, tsunamis or what have you, they help connect people and communicate things. They are absolutely integral to the community. It's very cool. And we see it here again, Aguru Metal. I want to be an indispensable company for the people of the local community. They're part of the local community. And the Shinkansen, connecting to a greater purpose. It's a national icon. It's not just cleaning a train, it's a national icon. What we do here has a greater good. It affects the reputation of Japan. Everybody who comes on this train, the tourists, reflects the people's experience of Japan. All right, so habit 7, the moment you've all been waiting for. You know, in many ways, this is the secret sauce, discipline. So when I was in Japan and I was hanging out with Katie and Mr. Yoshino, we had a conversation, or Katie facilitated a conversation with Mr. Yoshino. And this conversation was, what is it, right? We have, is Lean and Japan, is that the Venn diagram? Is that the magic? Is Toyota different again? And why is that so? And we landed on the conclusion that Toyota was a product of its environment. It was certainly influenced by, it couldn't have evolved anywhere else, right? There were things about Japan that made it really fertile soil for Toyota and the Toyota production system. But Lean and the Toyota production system aren't quite synonymous these days. Toyota is still different. And the question put back to Mr. Yoshino was why? And he said discipline. They are just really, really disciplined. All the time, stick to, reflect, adapt, really, really disciplined. And someone in the group said, but you know, Toyota recalls, what have you, there were some challenges a few years back. And he said, well, what was that? And he said, they'll tell you. They lost the discipline and they got it back. So one of the big thought leaders when it comes to the Toyota Way is Jeffrey Leica, the author of the many Toyota Way series of books. And he says, we believe that the biggest gap in capabilities in the Lean movement and the root cause of the failure of many Lean programs is in leadership. So what does Mr. Yoshino say? Learning is not enough. We have to practice over and over again until it becomes habit. So folks, thank you very much for listening to my tale of 7 habits. I will be around the conference if folks want to ask questions or come over and say hi. And if you liked my stories, you might like the book Tribal Unity, all about leadership and agile and lean. Thanks, folks.
Awesome. Give it up for Em, everyone. I think we have just a couple of minutes for questions.
Sure, I can do questions.
And I have a couple if no hands go up, by the way. So any questions for Em? Excellent. I'll ask mine then.
You're supposed to wait for 10 seconds, Alex. No, you're right. Yeah, no,
Okay.
right. Okay. Sorry.
So one of the beautiful things that I saw on your slides, and something that I think we've all been missing, is that kind of physical world, physical boards, and even tours.
Yeah.
So what can we do when we're moving to more virtual worlds when it comes to like touring Gemba, going to visit these places? Any ideas?
Yeah, in some ways the Gembas become more accessible, which is probably one of the things I didn't anticipate. If I think about, you've got teams working together on MS Teams or Zoom or what have you. If you can set up your world so that you can drop in on those sessions quietly, on mute, don't intrude, but you can actually see much more of people in the wild in many ways than you can in a physical room. If I think about all the years I've spent walking around offices and watching teams, it's actually sometimes really hard to hear and really hard to see what's going on. When you drop into a team in a Zoom room, you can often see the screen that they're sharing and hear the conversation that they're having. So there's a real connection that was actually less visible to us, we found. And interestingly, you see the same thing with the chat apps that folks are using internally. So if I think about being an external person, I want to come in and check on the teams. But we're more connected to our customers than ever before because we're inside their ecosystem now. We're on their Teams instance. We're in their chats. We're actually seeing far more of the native behaviour than what we did previously. I do think going and visiting other sites is trickier because people aren't so keen on having you in their calls, but I have also noticed that people have been sharing factory tours on YouTube and things of that nature. So, it's a little bit different, but there's some other stuff out there that wasn't there 2 years ago.
Awesome. All right. Join with me again in thanking Em for such a wonderful talk. She'll be at a stand. You can go buy a book. She'll sign the book for you as well.
I will. This is true. Thanks very much, folks. Have a good conference.
Excellent.